powers Stukov's bio kill switch trait. Detonate enough pustules and the damage and slow upon explosion become area effects. Detonate viruses when the enemy team is clumped up and watch its effectiveness multiply. Universal Carrier allows healing pathogen to spread back to Stukov from his allies. With solid positioning, he can pass his healing virus between his teammates and himself indefinitely. Finally, the Bio Explosion talent at level 20 allows Stukov to use his Bio Kill Switch trait to explode his lurking arm. This applies a weighted pustule and silences enemies for a couple seconds, providing ample time for your team to remove them from the board. Soon, Stukov's infestation will spread onto the battlegrounds of the Nexus. Manipulate its unique nature to benefit your allies and bring your enemies' downfall.
That I enjoyed.
The table is set for a Freedom 3-0 in this series, and it's up to Superstars to stall things out.
Take us to
get
dessert?
a victory.
Yeah, I'm pushing on. I'm sticking with
like,
the dinner
dang it,
meme.
I can't think of something to go along with this, but you got it, Good job.
Yeah, nailed it. Got him going. All right, but game 3, it hasn't looked good so far for Superstars. The first map was going to be the probably best odds. Wait.
Yeah, Braxis.
Yeah, that's not true. I think the best odds would be 2. Out of all the maps, I feel like I give it to Tomb when it comes to Superstars and their chances of winning the game. Do you know where we're going?
Even the new version of Superstars?
Even the new version.
Okay.
It depends. Like, their leadership role is constantly shifting. So then it might be a little bit harder. But again, just with their heavy trend of loving to, focus onto the macro play, even though the last 2 weeks it hasn't. What is it?
I would say Dragonshire, too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They really love Dragonshire. Let's see where we're going. Let's see what the next map is. Shrine. So Superstars feel like their best bet is not to have a Battleground pick. It is to maintain the first pick.
Which explains why the 2 maps you and I talked about and thought that Superstars would be taking us to is not the case. Dragonshire and Tomb are still left up, and now it's going to be first pick here. So I don't know how I feel about that.
Diva.
Last time the Genji,
that wasn't the
time,
question what I thought you were going to ask me.
I just respect, like, you walk in with a game plan. You say, I'm responding with Diva, and you don't back out. Like, nope. That's the second time today. And I think, maybe not enough credit to the confidence. Just like, whatever she says, I'm going to say grain. I'm going to say grain, and then grain.
Grain?
Green. Just insert whatever word here. But the Diva, yes, Diva will be a thing on Inferno Shrines. And it's something that Superstars will have to pay attention to. One of the better maps when it comes to Diva and the threat that she can provide. But Freedom really doesn't care about the map. They just think the hero is real good.
Superstars continuing with their Genji ban versus Team Freedom. It's interesting to me that Superstars don't even want to pick him, because they have before, and they did a good job with him.
I'm at the point where Superstars is making so many changes so fast that I don't actually feel like I can analyze them accurately, right? You know what I mean? To where it's like, half of what I say could be actually me having a conversation with the guys behind the scene, and they could still, between 2 days, mix it up, revamped it, and just been like, nah, this is the version we are testing, pushing, and furthering today. Because if you asked 2 weeks ago, you look at the exact same roster, what do we end up with? They were focusing on the map, keeping the things more consistent, sticking to the things like wave clear, what they knew in the past. They were changing as little variables as possible because they hoped that that would allow them to get that growth. Now they kind of just took the rule book, it's out, and now it's changing up everything at once. So rather than one variable, what if you take every single one and do everything backwards? Not too backwards.
This looks good, though.
Yeah,
this looks really good. Tas Vala Ariel is nothing to sneeze at, being able to get that in your draft. The first 3 picks were the exact same. Actually, the first 5 when you consider the bans, too. Genji, Anub, Tas, Uther, Stitches, exact same as last game. This change-up is for the Ariel Vala. And I have to say, that looks good for Superstars.
It does. Everything right now, nice for Superstars. But it's not the end of the draft, and it's definitely not the start of the game. We've got a long ways to go. Superstars, we want to push this to game number 4. Freedom, when they're looking at the ban phase, a lot of what they want to be doing is looking about early game pressure. They're going to go with an Arthas double value with that ban. Not only does it accent the map directly, but we talk about with the double support, with the trifecta, you want to keep them in, you want that slow, sustained fight. Arthas is amazing there, and they get both away. But the Diva taken away. Superstars, They're not having it today, Gilly.
They have had enough
They're donezo.
of Diva. So Diva and Genji both banned. Dahaka still available for Cure if he wants to get Dahaka for a side soak. They have Stitches and Uther too, so they have a lot of follow-up and synergy with the combo with Drag. What else in this position? Because I do think it'll be Dahaka. Maybe. Maybe this is where we see a new pick for Cure. You know, Cure, we've only seen him play 4 heroes so far in all of HGC. Obviously, he can play more, but he hasn't been forced outside of his Genji, Dahaka, and then Leeming and Vala are the other 2 that he's played.
I hope this is the game. You're right. This draft kind of adds up to this might be the first time we actually get that going.
And it is.
It's going to be the Illidan. When I think of heroes that I know I've seen Cure in like at some point, because he's never played professionally until Phase 2, but I've seen more of him than every other non-professional player probably ever. And I feel like the one thing for him is like the Illidan like kind of stands out as like one that he's heavily just applying the pressure. I think that's more of like dorm days that is coming to my mind when looking at that. But when I see the name Cure, Illidan was one of the top 2 heroes that comes to my mind behind the Genji now. So I'm happy to see this here for them.
Illidan is also a common addition to the Vala Ariel Tassadar too. So being able to take that away from Superstars so that they don't have Illidan to pair with that was the first time we saw that when E-Star was able to bust up with Savage and Xingxi. Yeah,
good old Xingchen and Savage just holding their own, you know, showing the world that maybe we all have the meta wrong.
Double hyper carry.
The double. See, we took what was good and we doubled it. How do you stop this?
100% better.
Yeah. And now we got the Tyrael here. Tyrael Dahaka rotation for Superstars. Tyrael has been one other team, I think, out of all of Phase number 2 has played Tyrael, and that is only Tempo Storm. I might be wrong about that. That's drawing purely off the top of my head. But if so, it's like only one game for one team. Tempo is the only one who showed it more than once.
Yeah, there's not been a lot of Tyrael play in Phase 2 for North America. We'll see how it works out for Superstars.
Funniest thing about Tyrael, I'm sorry, this blows my mind every single time. Tyrael was nerfed really bad, and then he's seen more play in North America than he ever has in his entire life. Like, after Tyrael got nerfed is the first time he became a consistent thing. Then the rest of the world dropped him in value, and he's still showing up here and there. But when he was a big boy, when the rest of the world appreciated him, NA was just like, nah, you know, not going to pick it up. I'm just surprised that now it's gotten to that point, you know? It was after the nerfs, after the nerf, and then after the lower prioritization we saw from MSB. Just one of those phenomenons you see in Heroes of the Storm that you'll never truly be able to understand. But every time I see it, I just go, how did this happen? Oh, man.
Dread thoughts.
Dread thoughts. You know, it's sad because you'd like to say it's shower thoughts, but in fact, I can never escape it. It's actually all points of the day I get stuck with that kind of thought process.
I like that you're basically saying you can't escape your own mind.
Yeah, it is. It's essentially just an eternal, like, just trapped in my mind, you know? Like, I feel like everywhere I go, I just can't run away from it.
What about transcendence?
Yeah.
As you're lying in bed.
That's
These are things that keep
it's 3 in the morning, and then I'm just sitting there at bed, and I'm like, has anybody ever thought about, like, what insight synergy might be with, like, I don't know, insert something else crazy? Like, what if you insight on top of, like, Shando's Clarity, Malfurion double support? Does the cross supporting between the CDR on top of both of them like add up to be like this ungodly cannot be matched? That's the kind of stuff that really every night.
Well, I'm going to segue this. Superstars, if they can't win this game, it's going to be keeping them up at night because they are down 2 games in this series to Team Freedom. They have drafted the Vala Ariel Tassadar. They've got a double warrior behind it. They've got a global with the Dahaka. They've got the ability to apply some pressure earlier on, and especially versus the Abathur composition of Team Freedom. They'll need it. Let's get into the game and see if Superstars can take us to Game 4.
Love it. Here we are. It is, again, going to be Game 3, and Superstars fighting with their lives on the line. Their backs against the wall. Insert another catchphrase here because if things sound better in 3s. Gilly, what do you have?
On the cusp of losing.
On the cusp of losing. I apologize. I just gave away my #1 casting strategy. Guys, say everything in 3s and just say it really dramatic.
And here in the red, Team Freedom. Things looking good for them, especially, as we mentioned before. They play Gale Force Esports on Sunday. They have seen Gale Force Esports now play No Tomorrow. They have seen some of the potential things that they might be able to exploit versus Gale Force Esports, but they don't want to give Gale Force the same kind of things to exploit on their side. So trying to just close this out quickly, play as few games as possible, and not really show too much weakness.
Yeah, Freedom's lack of weakness is something that does seem hard for me to gauge, because I feel like they are the beast that's yet to be fully tested, if that makes sense. They are the team in North America that you look at before and after and you say you're better. But they're without a doubt the least accurate depiction through their play and performance so far.
The statistic was really cool of Zugrug. He is 100% win rate with a good KDA on Stitches, and that's not like 1 or 2 games. After the last game, 5 games now played on Stitches.
Nice. Getting that sample size up, busting out, flexing harder. With the stats, we have Aberther Hat at level 1. It's going to be standard hat build probably coming out from him. Maybe some variation at the 4-7 that we see from time to time.
Battered Assault, the change up for Cure this time. So trying to have more damage if his Sweeping Strike can hit at least 2 heroes, then increasing the damage bonus. For that, so not having Immolation, he won't have that clear, the wave clear that you get from that. Instead, more focused, it seems to be on team fights there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we see for Tassadar at the level 4 then, if he goes into the lifesteal there with the Kalas, or it's going to be focusing on the armor. Oh, excuse me, other side of the table. Never mind there. I was wondering, because just if you would see that kind of adjustment, because in NA we see some 15, some shielding, but when you go into the auto, I expect everything to exit the autos. But it turns out, when it's your opponent's hero, you can't, in fact, steal their talents and their kit and use it for your own.
Who would have known? Iacona.
You can steal an Iacona, though.
You can take an Iacona, and that's what Team Freedom do. See, that Battered Assault also increases the basic attack damage bonus, even if you don't hit the 2. So being able to increase that, give the extra amount, little bit of damage once Cure decides to go in. But and they have decided to.
What that does scare me about a little bit is it could not. This is one of those flexing of talents that I don't look at and I go, oh gosh, that was scary. It's like, oh, you know, let's see if it gets any worth here. But what it doesn't remove is a specific part of this map that oftentimes can be a huge power play, is when you're global, is the person on the shrine soloing it fast, threatening something, and then you're just waiting for the Illidan to hunt in. That's never going to happen, because Immolation that is his shrine control. He is terrible to do that, so now he has to match Dahaka and go match him every time. And granted, it was very likely he was going to do that anyways, but it doesn't change the fact that they now cannot abuse that if we find them at like, oh, look at them abusing this moment. They just can't.
Yeah, it seems like since they do have Greymane, who is a good shrine clear, it's less about having the Illidan on that point, and maybe he can be split soaking somewhere else if that's the case, and then have the Greymane around the point. With Zugrug too, there is a lot of shrine damage that Freedom has drafted. Dahaka is starting to stock in, so Superstars want to go for this invade.
But they're split. Look at Cure drawing some of the aggro from the members of Team Freedom. Saray is struggling to be able to deal with that, and Hosi allowed the Battered Assault to hit 2. He's got the hat, he's got the damage, can he get the double?
Oh my.
It's at least 1. Oh, look at Urho. Gets the fallout. The stun actually sets up a pick. And Iacona didn't even need the explosion there. Just throws it. Go ahead, throw out the whips. This is just fancy play from Superstars. Bit flashy.
Yeah, they went for that invade though, and they lost a lot to make sure that they secured the camp though. Losing the 3 there. Cure on the back line, just wreaking havoc.
It's so funny, man. Like, I'm not kidding when I say, like, I could talk about that fight for 10 minutes on, like, why it played out the way that it did, but I just want to highlight that the coolest thing about it is that normally I would not look at Team Freedom's composition and say in a 5v5 or a heavy invade, it thrives, unless it's in a map where the distance to safety is huge. And this is not a map where that's the case, but it's because of how Cure truly draw aggro. The Holy Trinity wants to stick together. I mean, you're only as strong. Oh man, I'm missing the phrase here. Where you're stronger than the sum of the parts, right? That is the Holy Trinity. So removing parts of it is not just like, well, at least we have 33%. It's like, no, I have nothing. I don't have any part of it. And that was such a good job getting that split. Normally, Superstars draft should win or at least be successful in those early fights, and that one didn't look close thanks to Cure.
Cure playing that Illidan very impressively and has the Abathur hat to back him up too. It is full hat build for Abathur. Moving on after the pressurized glance with Adrenal Overload to give the attack speed, which enables just so much. That talent with Illidan is so much because of how his trait works. And then even Needle Spine, so have the increasing damage and the range of stab at 20%. Dansky and Collusion have showed up to the party. Hook brings back Iacona. Follow-up Hammer of Justice. Goodbye, Iacona. Team Freedom looking for their heroics.
Yeah, they were doing just a little bit of everything right there, even in just going down trying to force a fight, a skirmish, because they know that they have Illidan on the Shrine. And I was talking about before how they don't have as effective of a Shrine control. You're seeing it come into play here. They're trying to go with the look it, our Illidan's got a global, he's capturing this. They're luckily 30 ahead, so they get away with it now. But in the past, maybe not going to. They drop the hunt. Yoda hits a drag. If the heals are there, they can survive. Tyrael shield. Ariel, she doesn't have enough ult, but she does. Nope, the clone. Wow.
Yoda
Is he a god?
still fighting. Yoda lives.
What?
Despite all of the pressure, the hunt, the double Illidan, Yoda lives. Superstars rotate in, save him. Hook hits, but it's Tyrael. He has the mobility, he's out. But behind all of that, Team Freedom, we're still getting the Shrine.
All right. I don't mean to get you excited, nor do I mean to intend to hype anybody at home maybe a bit more than they need to. But does Freedom remind you of any other teams in the world playstyles throughout your entire time of studying competitive Heroes of the Storm? Do they remind you of anything? It's just this is like,
it sounds to me like they remind you of something.
Yeah, they do. I just wanted to know if you felt like you had any indication either.
Hit me.
I don't know what era, but it does feel like a top Chinese team, and I can't figure out what yet. But it's mainly on how they take these fights. Yeah, hold on a
now,
minute.
there goes the hunt. Posty in the back. They've got the Sanctification and a lot of people in it. Team Freedom have taken a massive amount of damage from this Collusion, just wailing away against the 4-man as Cure once again separates one of the members out from Superstars. But Team Freedom have survived. Nasmus jumping on the back, allowing the rest of the team to escape, and they do.
Yeah, they did a much better job of grouping so Iacona can get that support. They all in that fight, but they all in on Srey, who has the double disengage with that dimensional shift. They're looking to invade in. Iacona, Force Aegis, he's going down. How many others are with him? Looks like one, but Cure is not done.
Oh, perfect drag from Yoda, and yet Cure lives, hunts right back into things. They are not done.
They are not. Cure is going to get another one. But, all right, so let me make an argument as to why. I'm not going to put a name because I feel like E-Star is giving them a bit too much credit. E-Star is a beast of their own. No one mirrors their style of play. But they have this level of just let's fight right now. Whenever the fight comes to hand, they often are willing to take that. But the biggest thing for me that feels that way is like, think about how they take the Shrine. That's the second decision making that just seems a little bit weird. They put Illidan onto it to solo for the global, and it's not as optimal, but rather than Illidan finishing it, Illidan gets a hat and goes, let's fight. So much so he's willing to dive, he's willing to drop a hunt on a solo player, he's willing to make these things happen. And it's not necessarily that there is a right or wrong, like this body block's not as flashy, it's a little bit easier, but that kind of aggression and constant forcing out of Freedom here, no team would draw the Illidan away and then just all-in dive past a fort by himself.
I will agree with you, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But it's also kind of the composition they drafted, right?
I mean,
they've got the Greymane Illidan with an Abathur hat that's fully focused on the Illidan. They've got Uther too. And then they even got Slam Build Stitches.
I agree that the playstyle naturally would draw them into that direction, but mainly how they played that boss, being like the boss into what they managed to make happen, yeah, maybe didn't get as much as I was hoping for, but it still was, I never would have thought of that a way to approach that problem. They could have gotten the same results at the end. I went for the safer one, but that was cool. And most of the time when I have those moments where I go, I never would have thought of that, it's almost always a Chinese team I'm watching.
Well,
so
Collusion
maybe that's it.
Starts playing Hammer of the Lightbringer,
we'll
know.
Yeah, when we got
we will know.
Tiger the Tank here. He's coming out.
Team Freedom have a 2-level lead. It's 9 kills to 1, largely because of that aggressive playstyle you've been talking about, playing it extremely well. It's obvious that it's something that they've practiced, right? They have practiced playing this way, and it's so nice to see that from Freedom, especially when you recount how they used to play, how they played in the playoffs, which was just like, we're going to get Gazebo, we're going to not lose anybody until 20, and then we'll win the video game. Now it is so much different to see from Team Freedom, and I love it.
Yeah, Team Freedom is going to be the first team, I feel like, in North America that looks to end the game too fast. You know what I mean? And I actually can't make an argument on if working backwards is easier or more difficult than the other. But I can tell you as an observer and an HGC caster, I'm ready for them to be the first. That is something I long for. The Punisher now is here. Nobody's going to follow up. The hook doesn't land. Nice moment while that cooldown is finding a way to cycle out. Nasmus there. Goes in. The hunt goes in. So this is nice. You know, Superstars isn't too pressured, at least not yet.
There's the Sanctification, allowing people to group up and get the heals from Iacona. Strafe is there to get more heals, more energy for, but Cure once again is separating the team away. Separating out all of Superstars away from each other until they find the right person, and they feel they've found it on Yoda. Hook goes in, Crystal Aegis. Yeah,
Crystal Aegis Detainment Strike was not going to land there for Iacona. Nice flash out for Dansky, deterring the advancement in. Divine Shield, and Cure's ready to make stuff happen there. Can he get Hosty? He very much can, thanks to the value out of that battered Assault. I'm telling you, Gilly, just they have moments.
Yeah, even the we're running away, and the minute
that
they
don't
turn,
chase us.
Boom,
Please,
just right
no.
back in.
I'm a damsel in distress. Please don't join us here in the bam! We're going to kill them. Like, you saw them just go, wait. All right, now we're going to fight. And it's unfair to claim that only the Chinese teams are the ones that do that, but they do have a couple other characteristics that stands out to me. That was why I asked you. I think it's worth it. Right now, Freedom's making it worth it. It's a huge experience advantage. Superstars, they've got to wait for the 16s. Freedom can do whatever they want.
It's an everything advantage. Structure, kills, experience, and games in this series. Up to over Superstars.
So rather than going bottom, forcing the easy thing, rather than going anywhere else, they just double stack the camp, and they're going to all in on mid and just say, well, we have the 16 talents here. We've got a full level where we can buy them at a time, and Abathur can do his best to make sure bottom falls eventually.
You see Dahaka up top, hanging out, trying to get Superstars 16, but Superstars are so far off from that 16.
I wouldn't even mind if they clone for this keep. With this camp, as long as you clone high and you don't only burn the clone, that's all you have to worry about. There they go. They drop the hunt. They force the Aegis, Strafe. A lot of things being used here.
First bullet 2, chunks down. Here's going to go back in.
Oh,
that's so
my. That slam damage you saw.
Double stitches, double the play.
Yeah, nice drag there. Dropping him in. Divine Shield last second goes off. It is allowing a couple more seconds alive for Dansky. Nice heal there. Now Kira looking to turn things back onto them. He's taking a lot of damage, but he goes down.
That was a kill that was so necessary for Superstars because there is a Shrine active. 16 is almost here. Superstars defend their keep. They had top fairly well pushed out thanks to their Dahaka. Now they can turn their focus onto getting this Shrine and their 16.
Gilly, they are going to have Holy Ground here. I really hope this is not Blood for Blood.
Should be Holy Ground.
Yeah, but you know, we saw the Burning Rage, which has been questionable 13s, and when we see Burning Rage, it's like, well, maybe we'll see. It's just the one reason why I was like, if we don't see the Holy Ground is because the entire game, Superstars has struggled to just initiate. They've had about 4 moments where they could have actually taken a fight, but haven't had any hero to go in and be able to say, hello, I would like to start this team fight. Now having that Holy Ground and a Punisher behind it, I want Dahaka to not be behind. Because this is not a moment where it's like worrying about saving the game. You need to Holy Ground split, get a kill, and get this keep right now. And without him, it's going to be it's completely unrealistic. Tyrael has to be the member splitting Team Freedom up.
Well, he has his ability to brush talk in, but the bait was going to be there. Superstars still have to get through the front wall, and the Punisher is dealt with so fast. Now Dahaka is there, and Team Freedom's trying to aggress before he can stalk in. But the stalk comes in, Superstar's still pretty healthy. Nasmus being dealt with once that's down, the clone is out, and now Team Freedom don't have the clone. Slam every time does a ton of damage to the members.
Strike.
There's the drag.
And they don't manage the Holy Ground before the Divine Shield, or even during the Divine Shield duration there. Kira questioning if he wants to move up again. He's got the hat. Adrenal Overload on a line. And the distance to safety is pretty huge here.
Yeah, 9 seconds until the hunt would be available. There's a Tainment Strike. Follow-up Holy Ground behind. Cure still staying strong in the middle of Superstars. Archon is popped. Superstars ready to get back in the fight. They're using the auto attacks to slow down Zugrug. Hunt back in.
Cure goes back in, but Stitches is already removed. The hat is there. The drag lands. They need a bit more. They have the tools. Superstars finds themselves another kill, but the core, a lot of pressure onto that core there for Team Freedom.
Dahaka sent back. Superstars is still down a level thanks to the constant soaking of Team Freedom's Nasmus on the Abathur. Nasmus has also cloned Greymane, trying to be scary enough with the double Greymane and the Uther to stop Superstars from being able to take out this keeper, at least slow it down because of that top.
Yeah, and Urho, you see them trying to make this go down, but he doesn't have enough health or enough mana. They could have gotten away with a little bit more here. Eldruin, you can just throw the Eldruin a little bit off to the side like that, siege up, and then Q away whenever you need. You saw it there. He had moments where he was questioning doing it before, but now they actually can be punished. You know,
yeah, Freedom's just trying to slow them down potentially because we're going to have the hunt in 1 second. They don't do it, though. Superstars have caught up, though, in experience at least.
Yeah, Superstars. I mean, Superstars can win this game now. Whereas if you asked me that before those staggered deaths, I would have just like, no, they are losing everything too fast, too much. But now Freedom has shown that they have to at least respect what Superstars is doing, because now they're the ones baiting fights and going, well, this is where we turn. Because to be honest, Cure's playing with a little bit too much disrespect in terms of what he needs to do into this game whenever Divine Shield's not available. When things are working out, he looks unstoppable. But when he isn't the one getting all the resources, he's being punished effectively by Superstars.
Yeah, especially in that last fight, too, where Zugrug had already taken a lot of damage, and then Cure going in, kind of like, maybe I can draw the aggro long enough that I get Stitches out, but Stitches went down, the slow was real, the damage was there too, and then Cure just got turned around on.
If you actually go back and watch it, before Cure actually Qs in, Iacona steps up to make sure he gets the Detainment Strike angle. Like, they were so ready to counter-initiate before the fight even started. Talking about fights, Urho here with Yoda find themselves pretty low. There goes Adaptation. Holy Ground Sanctification stacking, not anywhere near what you want at this stage of the game. Now Cure is looking to make things happen.
Yeah, that's huge that Sanctification is down. Divine Shield's been used.
Dropping
Airho's
the Aegis.
been found, but Aegis keeps Airho alive.
The cross-supporting of Tassadar, Ardil, and Tyrael is enough for this Illidan to begin to struggle and get these kills. Now they find themselves with the Skeletal Defenders 34. There's only 3 left, though. They're going to hunt in. Team Freedom, can they steal enough? They can, but what do they lose? Greymane's first, Punisher's back, but it's not going to leap over.
Tassadar? No, they've been able to push this fight up to the top. Airho
Cure.
is so low, so is Iacona. Iacona falls, so does Airho. Only 2 living. Tyrael's going to explode on top, but it is too late. Team Freedom wipe Superstars.
And Team Freedom now, knowing that they have the Punisher here up through the middle lane. But the biggest factor here is they've got themselves an adrenal overload at Illidan. Man, Abathur with the Illidan to be able to hat the best hero to end the game, especially with something like Battered Assault. This is over, Gilly. This is 3-0 going over to Team Freedom.
Team Freedom may be getting a little too hasty for that victory, but otherwise a very solid game from them. A solid brawling composition executed on Infernal Shrines to take out Superstars 3-0 in the series.
I'm just glad that we got to see at least Cure playing different heroes. It's one of those things where it's not like I don't believe that he can. I very much have confidence he is able to do so for, I mean, I've never had more faith in a rookie in my entire life. I'll tell you that much. And so I'm just glad we get to finally see it on some, you know, where it feels like, oh, when he's off of, you know, this hero, does he seem to have that big of an impact? Does he stand out as much? And it still does feel like that. You know, though we're yet to see compositions where he isn't the main carry factor. One thing I do want to note for Cure moving forward when it comes to the play and looking at Team Freedom that they may suffer from is a bit of what I would call like a Glarong effect. Whereas early in the career, if the compositions were not helping him all inning and winning, they fell apart. Nobody's yet to highlight that. Nobody's yet to try and push him in the direction. We haven't experienced it. I'm not saying it even will, but this is not just a Glarong or just a Cure. This happens in all parts of the world. And it's something I am afraid of, but nobody's there to test them at least yet.
To provide a counterpoint to that,
okay,
potentially, what about Brax's holdout where he was playing Dahaka?
The Brax's holdout draft, let's be honest here, one borough, and the entire game went in their favor from beginning to end. I feel like, yes, you could argue that game was won, but again, this is against Superstars, who is struggling, sitting at, I believe it's now 6th place slot in North American scene. I just feel like it wasn't enough of a challenge for me to be like, you know what, you've proved me wrong. I'm not saying it's going to, but it is something I am afraid of, because it feels like we're yet to see comps where, again, it's like I'm the Dahaka side soak, accepting that you can't always be the superstar. It's just not possible.
Well, we've got Team Freedom going up against Gale Force Esports on Sunday. Having seen both of those teams now today, how are you feeling about how that match goes down?
I feel like Gale Force is just... I don't know who's going to be the team to be able to stop them. I don't know if we have one now with the teams that they've been able to take out. Maybe Freedom's it. It's going to be what I talked about, like the untested. We very much have our first trial for them.
Yeah, that will be a huge test for them. Let's check in with Team Freedom. We've got Zugrug on the phone. Hey, Zugrug, congratulations. Was that a 3-0 victory that you guys were anticipating versus Superstars?
Yeah, we were expecting a 3-0 or 3-1. We thought we were the favorites going into the series, so it wasn't a surprise.
Do you guys feel like you have been put to the test at all in drafting versus anybody in the compositions or in the series that you have played against so far? You did have that one loss versus No Tomorrow, but do you feel like you've had to start flexing around in some of the picks that you've had in drafts?
I think after our loss to No Tomorrow, we really refined what we were drafting, and since then, I feel like we haven't really been outdrafted in any of the games since then.
Awesome, that is good to hear. I'll let Dread talk to you.
Nice segue there, nailing that one.
So good,
Absolutely.
So good. It's end of day, okay? Okay.
First of all, congratulations, and thanks for busting out, more of the heroes like the Diva that you guys got coming in. But I want to ask on this, it's kind of the same note. I was talking to it a little bit before. With the variable of having Cure with you guys and now being implemented into the team, a lot of the times it feels like it's kind of always build the hypercarry compositions around him. Do you guys feel like you need to, or it's something that just kind of happens?
Well, if we can get it in draft, we just do it, and if it works game one, Cure Hypercarry, why not go to it the next games? If it stops working, then we can try something else, but why stop when it's working?
All right, so the simple, just don't fix it if it's not broke.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We know that you guys are going up against Gale Force Esports on Sunday. Having seen their matches so far, having seen their match today, how are you guys feeling about that matchup?
I think it'll be a close series, but I think we have a good chance of winning it.
Nice. That's good to hear. I'm excited to cast it. I gotta know, you and King Caffeine, who's the better Stitches?
Well, I'm 6 wins in a row on it, so I'd say me.
Not counting or anything.
Yeah, not counting, not counting. We did shout that out. Congratulations on that, by the way. That is.
6 Stitches every game, I feel like.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, Zugrug, I'll let you give some shout outs before we let you go.
All right, well, shout out to Team Freedom, all of our fans, everyone watching in Twitch chat, and shout out to Indie Bear for all the memes.
Nice. Thanks, Zugrug. Congrats again.
Thanks, guys.
I only aspire to one day be a quality meme producer to the level that I get shouted out in an interview.
In a professional interview?
I mean, that's only got to be, think about the memes. 6.5 is just not even close.
No, man, that's the cream of the crop. Being able to put yourself up there at the top of the memers.
A true meme lord.
Zugrug himself throws out some good memes.
Yeah.
You guys might not know that. Check out his stream, though. He'll meme ya. That's it. Team
That's
Freedom has the 3-0 victory. They can rest assured that they got that going into their match versus Gale Force. But Gale Force had a victory of their own. It was a hard-fought victory, a lot of patience versus No Tomorrow, but they did get the victory in the end, sitting at 4 wins up there. But No Tomorrow, it was necessary that they are able to get that win if they want to stay in contention for Western Clash.
Yeah, and, I still think there's so much between No Tomorrow, Team Freedom, and I feel like Gale Force today, there was a lot of really awesome things happening with these teams. And it's still kind of, where do they totally land? We're yet to know absolutely. But knowing that we have Team Freedom versus Gale Force for into this weekend, it just goes I am so excited for that now. Knowing that we saw that, and then Freedom still, it's just, again, it feels like it's just kind of like waiting for the team to get up to the plate and really kind of start pushing their buttons, seeing if they have all those kind of resources to actually win long series.
Yeah, it's fantastic that we get to see both Gale Force versus No Tomorrow and then Gale Force versus Team Freedom, because when you look at Phase 1, in Part 1, Team Freedom upset Gale Force, and then Part 2, No Tomorrow upset Gale Force. So it's a lot happening. It's awesome to see these matches. It really makes this weekend look just so awesome. But let's check in with the standings one last time for the end of today. As we mentioned, Team Freedom really needed that victory to be able to stay in contention for the Western Clash. They're sitting at 3-1. So are No Tomorrow. They're both tied, but No Tomorrow has the advantage there because they did beat Team Freedom in the head-to-head. And at the top, Gale Force Esports.
Yeah, and a lot of that is still, again, with the assumption that our standings are anywhere near, at least in the top half of the map, what we saw out of phase number 1, even though we know Tempo, they're struggling as we find themselves down at 5th, but they are yet to be able to play this weekend. And still, as we see on the bottom half here, Even in Death and Aventic, still trying to find themselves.
And this week, too, we will end with some uneven standings based on some teams playing more than others. But next week, once we have everyone playing their 6 matches, yes, there's 6 matches, we'll have a very good idea of where things stand in North America, especially when we look toward the Western Clash, and may even start having some teams qualify for that. So it is a very exciting time to be an NA Heroes of the Storm fan.
Hype.
For
the Western Clash. I want to say I hope we see a new face, but I don't at the same time. You know, I'm so torn on what I feel like for the North American scene as a whole. I honestly don't know moving forward, like what is actually the best result, you know, where I feel like this is going to better the region in the long run the most. For now, it's just like, I don't know. I almost want to go like the new blood, but we always know when you cycle the new blood, it just usually means your top's falling, not your bottom's rising. But at the same time,
that's not necessarily true, though. Look at Europe.
I mean, there's exceptions, right? Like,
yeah.
It's just taking, like, again, that goes like, well, is this like ours going to be the exception, or is it going to be a bit of, you know, the fact that it's more of like a depreciation overall?
It seems like we're all in this together, but there's a lot of improvements being made all around for North American Heroes of the Storm and Europe, too. Let's take a look at the schedule. Speaking of Europe, we'll have 2 more matches from them tomorrow. Team Good Guys versus Fnatic. And then Zealots versus Team Dignitas. So we get to see both of the new teams that came in from the Crucible go up against one of the long-standing big 3, Fnatic and Team Dignitas. Team Dignitas have been having kind of a rough start, sort of like Tempo Storm over here. And speaking of Tempo Storm, they'll take on Team Aventic, who also has not been having the easiest start to Phase 2, closing things out with Even in Death versus Roll 20.
Yeah, right there. I mean, it's the 7th and 8th that we have of the current standings versus the 1 and 2 of last phase number 1 standings. So a really tough battle for some of our lower teams here in North America, but hopefully there's something to be gained. We still see positive signs, especially for teams like Even in Death, because we know, you know, they've been just coming in and their whole mentality is just like, we're just here to learn. Like, we're just looking to grow. That's the biggest thing that we want out of this, to make sure that, you know, especially if the next time to be knocked out into the Crucible, that they're like, you know what, we aren't worried about. Even though they might be that team, they're like, our experience here is enough to make sure we stay, and then suddenly find themselves as a contender in NA.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how Even in Death handles Roll 20 tomorrow. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Heroes Global Championship. We'll see you tomorrow.